Spirit fans come here. We've had some changes in Spirit. Obviously, Chopper and zweih are out. Zontix and magixx are back in. And we haven't brought any, you know, anyone from that region on. We have Sid instead. And has a lot of knowledge of CS, obviously. And he's come on during his tournament break, so we always appreciate that. Sid, how you doing?
Doing great, doing great. How are you guys?
Good, good. It's always fun to talk about top teams with, people who are very familiar with them. And
Kind of dangerous for me though, but
yeah, this time it's always fun to get a chance to do that. For some reason there we go. We have our little slideshow as usual. And Harry, you've given us a classic meme slide of Back to the Future with magixx and
Is it
hally.
classic?
It is classic.
I
They're
don't
always
think
classic.
I don't think it's I don't think it's an instant classic. I got told off for using that as a headline during the major. I won't make that mistake again. It's okay. But yeah, I think it's fitting. I think it's fitting because sometimes to go forward you have to take a step back, and I think that's what FURIA have basically realized. And the intangibles of someone like magixx is always fun to talk about because you just can't quantify it at all. But I think it's fairly clear that that they did miss him a lot, and someone like zweih and someone like magixx, like they can play the same role and they can shoot similarly hard, but it's just very different having a character like magixx around. Like if you're talking about sports terms or anything, like he's good to have in the dressing room because he's just so funny. It's good to have him back in the scene, in my opinion. But yeah, so what do you think, Sid, of the magixx move coming back straight away?
I mean, of course, like you said, he's a big character, and from what we see from the outside, he's a guy, especially after he left, it left me with the sense of he was the glue of the team. Not only him, but also Zontix. But you notice how important he was in terms of maybe making Donk more comfortable or any other players from the team. And it's not so often that we see a player go back to the lineup like that. And it's cool that he took his time to just maybe evaluate some other offers that he had, and then he had his opportunity again, and he's coming back probably very motivated in a new role. I think it's great for them. They already know how he works, and how he is as a person and as a professional. And it's very fun. And now that he's gonna be the IGL, it's a good opportunity for him to maybe develop some new abilities and bring some of his soft skills even to more important point.
What do you think about him coming back as IGL?
I mean, we were having I'll open secret FURIA talks here. We were talking about what are you gonna do after Fallen retires, and I brought his name up because I was thinking he plays similar roles to Fallen, and he's probably very smart. And of course, this was like big brainstorming, and we're not thinking about talking to him or anything. We're just listing names
So it's not next week.
Yeah, not next week. Now that he signed for Spirit, definitely not next week. But we were like just listing names from nowhere, from Apex to I don't know whoever could be replaced Fallen. And then we were talking about I have in this matter right now IGLs who plays some difficult positions, and he can apparently. I mean, if they brought him back to IGL, he can IGL, and we didn't know that for sure. Of course, this was just us having some weird discussions about who we can talk to in the future. But I mean, they know him, they know his abilities, and if they brought him to be the IGL, it's because he has the characteristics of an IGL. And I've of course never worked with him, but I see him from the outside, and looks like a guy who can do that. And let's see how it goes. I think it's very interesting. It's a very promising team, in my opinion. Let's see how it goes.
A lot of the
I think
conversation during the show is going to talk about Spirit after these changes and what they're going to look like next year. What did you make of them towards the end of, like, I guess this last season with Chopper and zweih, and just how the team was?
I'll be honest with you. For me, they were in this. It was kind of weird watching them play, because when I thought about Spirit, at least for me, from the way I see CS and the way I saw Spirit before, you always saw this good mix of structure and also having donk as the guy who could maybe go out of the bulk to do something crazy. not only him but also Shiro. It's just that Shiro is kind of more a lot more passive, and then he wouldn't be using his freedom that much. But you also thought about structure, donk, and very good decision making. That's how Spirit, how I describe Spirit in the past, I don't know, 1.5 years. And then you start seeing some weird things in the games, and the games they're playing. Some games that they are losing, they weren't losing games like that before. They're just not used to seeing Spirit playing like that. Some weird decision making and things like that. So you see that the team is not 100% connected. So that's why I said before that it felt to me that magixx was kind of the glue in the team, because he was the guy helping the very difficult moments. You can never forget the performance that he had in Shanghai finals, and also the positions that he played. He was, I mean, for the positions that he played, you need to have this guy who's very secure of what he's doing. He's very, I mean, he doesn't step too much out of the line to do weird things. He's always 100%, feels like he's playing by the book at all times, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And that is a very important position. You see what Messi does for Vitality, for example. He's rock solid, and I mean, not bashing his way, because I love the guy. I've talked with him. He's kind of a friend to me. Of course, not a close friend, but I consider him a friend from the same environment. But felt like magixx could handle high pressure moments a little better. And of course, these recent times felt like some things weren't 100%. How can I say that? Everyone was on the same page the same way they were before. Didn't feel to me that they were on the same page.
A bit disconnected.
So, yeah, a bit disconnected for me.
Harry,
I think it's an interesting one always, because when you talk about like kind of the support player, basically, I think it's like, what do you want from that role, right? And I think in my head, like, now I've seen zweih in those kind of the same positions that are so tough for anyone to play in, that you'd always much rather have someone like magixx, who maybe doesn't have quite as high a ceiling sometimes. Like we saw even in the major playoffs, that the skill that zweih has, like as a player in different roles and different teams, he could hit crazy heights, right? But someone like magixx just never makes the wrong move. When you're running at magixx or Zontix on a bomb site, and it's, you know, they're 1v3 or something, you know they're going to stay alive for a bit of time. You know they're going to kind of use their utility well and everything. And zweih might get an ace like he did twice, and it's like, you know, you've won the round on your own because of his talent, but he might not always make the correct decision. And kind of when you sum all of that up, you'd much rather have a magixx or a Zontix compared to someone like zweih at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree.
And then obviously with them coming in, there's going to be a good bit of role changes. I mean, Zontix is back too. We're kind of skipping over, not talking about that quite as much right now, but that's going to be a big factor in freeing up some of the other players as well from their positions.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask quickly, not to jump in, but
yeah.
I think the interesting thing with the positions next year is going to be how donk does on CT side. We can go back to the old side just quickly. Is because I'm assuming that magixx and Zontix will be anchoring on a lot of maps, because that's what they're so good at, right? Like, what do you think that means for Spirit in terms of, because Chopper would rotate quite a lot, do you think this means that donk is going to have to kind of be much more vocal on CT side? And we know that that's already happening a little bit, but what do you kind of make of Spirit if donk and Shiro are doing more of the CT calling with magixx kind of hidden away on an anchor site somewhere?
Yeah, I think donk is gonna 100% assume the position of the CT caller, and maybe he needs to change a little bit of his positions. I'm thinking Dust2, for example, maybe he needs to become, I mean, we're probably gonna go through Dust2 maybe, but he needs to change. I don't think many positions, but he will have to step up as the CT caller for sure, the captain and CT side, similar to what we have in our team. For example, we have Yakinder being we call him the CT-IGL, and that's what's gonna happen to donk. So maybe he was doing that already because of some of the positions that Chopper had been playing. But yeah, I mean, seems like the guy knows a lot about CS. Donk, I mean, he's probably gonna do well fitting their role. Let's see how he does. But I feel like this is gonna be even better for him to develop as a player. More responsibilities So a guy like him feels like he's gonna become even better.
How much do you feel CS at the moment is kind of, Kun as a coach, obviously, how much do you think it is about an in-game leader kind of enacting the plan of the coach compared to kind of them having their own kind of freedom of thought a lot of the time? How often do you think, especially in MR12, you are kind of able to, for a team like Spirit, are they able to kind of just play out what Hally wants them to do and kind of do flow charts? Like how much will magixx actually be kind of putting his own stamp on the round? Do you think they're that type of team?
I think it all depends on what style of coach you have and also the style of a captain. So when we think about this new Spirit, you're gonna look at magixx like new captain, new IGL. He's new to the job. So in the beginning, I'm assuming he's gonna have a lot of influence from Hally, who also seems to be not in the bad way of the word, but like a controlling coach. And by that I mean he's gonna, of course, follow. He's gonna be the guy calling the shots in terms of the script that the team's gonna run. Most likely, it's gonna come from his mind. Maybe 80% of what he thinks and 20% of magixx thinks in the beginning, or even 90-10, who knows? And then after some time, it's natural for magixx to be gaining more freedom, and of course with experience, he's gonna feel more confident to be doing some of his own calling and applying his style to the team. But I think with a guy like Hally and working with new IGL, someone who never did the job before, will of course mean that, and I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of Hally's face. So it's actually interesting because now we can compare how much of the old Spirit that was playing was Chopper, how much of it was Hally, and then we're gonna have a good comparison seeing the new lineup play. But I think at least in the beginning, it's gonna be more dependent on Hally. And answering your question, I think it all depends on what kind of IGL you have. So and also the kind of the kind of coach that you have. So for example, if you take our team, of course, Fawn is gonna have a big voice in the structure and how he wants the team to be playing. But depending on what profile of IGL you have, maybe someone who's been IGLing for not so long, then you're of course gonna have a big influence from the coach. But in the middle of the game, this can change. I'm not saying anything. In the middle of the game, if I have a different idea, of course I'm gonna be pausing and bringing the idea. But it can change depending on how the team is looking in terms of general understanding of the game and how long the IGL has been having his IGL duties.
How much of Spirit structure do you think was Hally versus Chopper?
It's so hard to tell from the outside, honestly. I mean, anything that I say here is just a shot in the dark. But I would say 50-50 because I know Chopper has been around for a long time, and I also know that Hally has this. He has, at least from the outside, looks like the guy who will have his touch on the team, and I don't think Chopper could IGL for that long without having his own touch. So I think they kind of split things up 50-50.
Do you like the way CS is with kind of all the game planning? I mean, and it allows you to have more influence on it, right? But what do you kind of make of that as the way so many teams are able to play and kind of quite strict notes and everything? Like, what do you think that kind of does for the game?
I think the best teams will always be the ones who can go out of the book and just play their own style without being too afraid of being end-threaded or things like that. For example, Vitality, they have a lot of freedom. Every one of their players, they have a lot of freedoms. For example, they are so good in situations. So the reason they're winning games is not 100% of game plans. And there's 100% because of the game plans, because they play not too complicated CS when you watch their T side mostly, and then you can see the decision making their players make. It's very high level. But I think for me as a coach, I like more freedom, and I think the best teams will always be the ones who can step out of the book, step out of the game plan, and then the players being able to call some of the shots basically based on their feeding, but not 100% feeding based. Of course, they are prepared, and it's not that they are just throwing away the game plan that they have, but then they will be making some good decisions based on what they know about CS. So I think a group of very intelligent 5 players will always be the team who will thrive as the best. This is what Vitality is for me. I'm not saying they don't prepare or things like that, but I think they have this ability of just their players understanding what's happening, and then they're going to bring good ideas to the rounds. I prefer it this way, at least.
You play on the fly a little bit when you need to, basically.
Yeah, because if you're too strict to the papers, to the book, what if something goes wrong? What's going to be your next step here? Normally, you don't plan 4 or 5 moves ahead of the thing of the round that you have in front of you. So, for me, the team that's going to be the number 1 team is the team who will have players making good decisions and some things coming on the fly, like you said.
It's actually interesting because I think some of the criticism I saw of Spirit earlier this year was that they were maybe too predictable, that they did things very similarly. They had very set plans. Would you agree with that?
We haven't played them much. We played them once, and by the time we played them, we weren't prepping that much. It was during online groups of Blast London.
Mm-hmm.
So we watch them quite regularly, but we don't actually prepare for them. But I would say they are one of the most predictable teams because they rely on the same structure. But it's not easy to play against because they're very good in the things they do. So even though people can say they're predictable, doesn't matter if they're predictable, you're still gonna lose if you allow them to do their things just because they have very good players. So for example, everyone knows what Donk's gonna do in the map. Good luck trying to counter that. So it's like even though they're predictable, they're still very good.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's changed a little bit with NER coming in? Because I think at least that was the hope for kind of having a more aggressive lurker than someone like ZonTix in the team. Do you think that kind of changed the dynamic at all?
I mean, one of the ideas of bringing him was probably having someone who can also have some freedom, not only donk and Shiro. And like I said, Shiro is quite passive. So even though he has the freedom, he's not always using the freedom that he has. I think having someone as NER was probably the idea, like you said, having an aggressive lurk, someone who can be doing those moves. And honestly, this is what brought the attention to him in other teams that he played. He was the guy who was not playing 100% structured teams. He had a lot of freedom in the teams that he played, and he made some good moves. And then I don't know if when he joined Spirit, he got kind of restricted into playing into the system. But I think the right move, having a player like him, is freeing him up so he can be independent in the map. And it's a good trio to have him, Donk, and Shiro.
I think one of the interesting things for him as well was kind of his T side rating is much higher than his CT side rating in Spirit so far. And I think kind of ZonTix coming back, even though like on paper they have a lot of role overlap, might actually help to NER kind of play a few new roles and few of the heroic roles on CT side, and kind of, because I think he's 108 on CT side and below 1 on CT, so he's like their worst player on CT side, even lower than magixx was this year, for example. Yeah. So it's that interesting thing where kind of he might have to learn a few new things, but he's going to have a lot more space in the 2026 version of the roster, in theory, than the 2025.
Yeah, and a player like him should have space, honestly. He needs to have space, for at least from what we saw in his previous teams. Looks like the kind of a player who, with space, he can just do anything in the map.
You could tell that he wasn't fully comfortable in the roles that he was playing in Spirit either. Like during games, it's not like he was completely bad, but you could visibly tell that he wasn't comfortable in some of the positions he was playing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think of the kind of, like, how hard is it to play in a team with donk and Shiro being very vocal early round? Like, is there even room for a third star? Because, like, obviously a team like FURIA, everyone can kind of call their openings. I know Molodoi is probably calling more of them, but it is kind of more equal in terms of hierarchy. Like, do you think it's just really difficult to have a third star in a team like Spirit?
I think CS right now kind of gives you enough space to have a third star. So even though he's not gonna be calling a lot, at least he's gonna be there when they need him, you know? So it's gonna be basically, let's say it's Sheer and Donk calling the shots on City side. You're still gonna have NER playing impactful positions. And if he develops to have some ideas himself, he can, of course, I think he'll have the freedom to come up with them. And I think you need that third guy. It's very important to have the third guy. It's very hard to play without having that the third voice in the team. And I don't think it's 100% necessarily it will be him calling together with the two of them, but at least being there when they need them. You know, like they need the third rock solid player if they want to compete against the best. They definitely need that kind of player.
I think NER, when he came in, also changed up some of their strats. Like he talked about, changing the way that they play certain situations, or that they have certain takes that they do. Even like long on Dust 2, he said that he watched them play and he started adding bits to it. So I think he does have that voice in the team. It's just going to be interesting to see how that kind of develops in between this change, because, if Hally's trying to then implement a system with magixx calling, and Donk is now going to be the secondary voice, which yuurih said he's becoming more vocal in a media day interview at the major. Like, I'm curious to see how much NER's voice changes on this team, especially with Zontix coming back, because Zontix was always quite vocal. That was one of the big components in the old Spirit lineup as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, every team develops their own dynamics. Of course, a lot of the things that I say are based on how our team operates and how, the vision that I have from the game as well. But having a guy like Zontix being very vocal will maybe give less space for NER, but maybe he can focus on shooting, and then the positions that he plays, because of the comfort that he's gonna have, he's gonna be back to his prime, and then improve his CT stats, like Harry was saying that he had a big drop in the CT stats this year. So maybe the whole dynamics inside the team can make him perform more, and they need to find out what's the most comfortable style of calling and most style of City side that they're going to be playing with all those pieces.
I wonder if they will basically have to, like at some point, we'll have to just say, like, we know we've got 5 very vocal players, but some of you just have to take a step back. And even if you've got a good idea, just not always bring it up, because I think having 5 people all kind of thinking of different ideas in their head, all looking at the mini map and trying to kind of control the macro, I think it might be beneficial. I don't know who it would have to be, but for someone to just be kind of looking at their crosshair more, but it might be quite hard to reprogram them. I think that's my main kind of concern with the new roster, is that kind of magixx is IGLing, and then all 4 of the other players are known to be very vocal in kind of what they want to do at the start of a round sometimes.
I think the key for this to happen is for magixx to understand that he's gonna have to take a step back City side. This side, of course, is gonna be the IGL. He needs to be talking a lot and setting up the rounds. But he needs to be able to shift into his old City player that he was in the past. He needs to understand that he's not gonna be controlling City side, and he's gonna be the guy who will be focusing on his crosshair, like you said. But sometimes it's not that easy for a player to make the shift from T side, very vocal, City side, I'm just gonna be quiet and play my anchor roles. I'll just jump, be Mirage, and be quiet. And I think he's gonna be key for this. Otherwise, if he also wants to be vocal City side, it's gonna be a big problem for them.
How has Fallen found that? Because obviously, kind of off IGL to jumping on B, like you're talking about, like how have you kind of helped him manage that transition? Is it kind of the impact of Yekindar helping quite a lot there?
Yeah, so having someone like Yekindar, he understood that, okay, that space is not his anymore, because he was doing that, of course, helping and IGLing basically both sides. So now he knows that he has a very difficult job of holding his own positions that he plays, which are very hard. If I'm gonna be honest with you, he plays, I think, the hardest positions in the game. And my focus with him is always on bringing the best individual form that he can, and having his own tricks for his positions, without thinking that much about the macro, because people are already doing that. We have, of course, a Kinder thinking most of our city sides, but we also have Casserato having big impacts in some of the decisions, and also Molodoi as a vocal helper. So my focus with Fallen is making him perform the best that he can, focusing only on his crosshair. And he already has a very difficult job because of, I mean, inherently those are very difficult positions. So it's basically kind of treating him like this newcomer player who just needs to learn his own positions and anchoring them. And of course, there are maps that he can move a little bit more, but that is more natural for him. That is the easy part. So the most difficult part with him is trying to have those tricks for his anchor positions.
I want to ask a little about, so at EPL, Yukinder mentioned that he had wanted to implement the system of like the way the team plays on CT side, and that each pairing on each bomb site kind of has their own micro plays that they do, and they know how to play mid round. How does that change the way the CT calling happens? Does it come down to like those groups basically making their decisions, and then the Yukinder's kind of doing the overall structure on CT side, or how do you guys work that out?
Yeah, so basically the main idea was that Yukinder would be responsible for the macro idea, but he can't be micromanaging everyone at all times. Of course, if he is part of one of those groups, like you said, it's going to be very natural for him to set up a plan with his duo. But we also needed to develop in other players, vocal players, when Yukinder is not part of the group. So we need to have everyone involved in the process of understanding the macro idea. And even though this seems easy, sometimes it's not that easy. You need to be very conscious of what macro idea your team is playing around, so you can make your good micro decision and set up a good plan with your duo or with your trio or whatever. So the main work for us, CT side, was giving people enough freedom for them to, I mean, before the freedom is making people understand what kind of idea we were playing for, and trying to connect everyone in game plan. For example, this is going to be the round where we're going to be needing you to do this and that, but then it's up to you how we're going to do it. We're not going to be deciding for you, but we need you to understand what's going to be required from you in that kind of round. And you need to have good plans, because we're playing against elite teams. Good luck trying to hold the side, not having a good plan with your duo. You guys are just gonna look like dummies there. So of course we don't say like that, but we have conversations in that regard, trying to make everyone interested in the part of the plan, and feel important to the plan, important to the team, even though that person is not calling the shots.
If we turn that back to Spirit, then I think we've touched on magixx a lot, but in terms of Zontix's impact, I feel like that was something that he did for the old Spirit. He had a lot of those kind of micro decisions, micro plays, and the secondary voice on CT side. How do you feel like he's going to impact the team with his return?
Well, I'm thinking he's very motivated to play again, and he knows every time you go back to a team and knowing the team dropped a lot the city side after he left, and knowing that you had a significant impact on the city side, you're gonna come motivated and not gonna say conceited, but understanding your importance to the old success of the team. So if I were Hally, I would be telling him, hey, we need you to be very vocal and do it. It's better now for him to overdo it than to be quite shy, We need him back full force, and then if needed, they can turn it down a little bit. But I mean, a guy like him, he has proven to be one of the most vocal players and most important players to the city side structure in all the teams we have right now. They're competing playing for the titles. So having a guy like him come back, I think it's very smart for them to try to utilize him to his best. And even if he ever does it, it's better than he being too shy in the beginning.
I mean, I will always defend Zontix, but just because in the spirit of vlog, he defended rating 3.0 and zweih was calling it rubbish. And that just told me a lot about how they think, right? So Zontix is basically saying like, no, it shows your impact much more than before, because like when I look back at my good games, it lines up more, because I think that tells you a lot about how those two players maybe think differently about the game. I think it's actually quite illuminating in that, as well as backing me up, obviously,
No
which
bias,
is the
of
more
course.
important thing.
No bias.
No bias at all.
I mean, I didn't know that, and
yeah,
I'm backing him up. So yeah.
but I think it says something as well about Zontix, that I'm interested to see how psychologically he kind of deals with Spirit using a bench, like almost like a sports team would use a bench, and him taking some time off and maybe needing a bit of a break from other things, but then actually coming back. Like a lot of the time we get told players are benched from burnout, we just don't see them again, and then they go to a different team as if they'd been benched for any other reason, and it's always quite hard to know from the outside. But I think it'll be interesting to see how he deals with kind of not the rejection, but the team going a different direction, at least for a bit, from what most people seem to think. It was kind of like a mutual decision at the very least. So how will he be able to come back and be mentally strong enough to just snap back into that mode you're talking about? I think it could be tricky for him at times.
All roster moves are mutual nowadays, Harry.
Yeah, it's like every single politician. Has a politician ever been sacked? They just all resign. All of them just resign. It's the same thing now.
Yeah, both ways are happy with the move, and we pretend we believe that. No, but honestly, you can also look for at a different from a different point of view, which is he may be thinking that, okay, they know my real value and they wanted me back, so I'm coming back full confidence. But I think this is something that I mean, I don't know him personally, so I don't know how his personality works, but this is something that might happen as well, and I think it's very good because he's a very good player. I'm also a big Zontix fan, but I think he can be very impactful, and they need his impact. Even with we said here how good Donk seems to be with his calling and having a big voice on city sides, but even NER0 coming as a third voice, but they still need Zontix, because like you said, Harry, before, he seemed to be the guy responsible for those little pairs and making those micro things work a lot, and I think they needed him for sure. They really needed him back.
What's it kind of been like for you trying to coach yuurih and into these new anchor roles? Was Zontix someone you looked at as kind of like, what type of anchor did you want yuurih to be when it was decided he was going to have to specialize that role?
Okay, so yuurih looks a lot at Messi. I think Messi fits his style a little more because it's very, very funny, because Messi also had this same path of being the star player some time ago, and then fitting into the anchor roles. But I think with yuurih was basically the work of making him understand that you're not gonna be vocal, but you're gonna be important. With some players, they have a hard time understanding that. They think that you're kind of taking his voice away or things like that. But with yuurih, was kind of like I told you guys about Fallen focusing on the small individual things, but yuurih, he actually gained more responsibilities, even though some people think that going anchoring is kind of being demoted, but actually sometimes you get more responsibilities, and this was the case for yuurih, because we looked at him and said, hey, this is your bomb site now, this is your responsibility, you need to be responsible for a lot of things. Of course, you're going to be quiet most of the round, but there are a lot of the things in the background that comes from what you think and what you need and how you're going to be able to organize players around you. So with him was kind of making him understand that it's very important what he's doing, even though he's not talking a lot, and teaching him the importance of utility in the positions that he's going to play, because then he can free people up. Because before, I'm not saying he wasn't thinking, but he did a lot of just running together and trading people and being that kind of aggressive player like he was in the past. If you think, for example, the way he played Vertigo, he was very aggressive and he was very he felt very free on what he could do, and for him it was very comfortable. And then when we brought him, we kind of had to change his priorities inside the game. But he understood that very well, and he's very technical. He shoots very hard. So for him, once he understood the kind of responsibilities that he had, and then he started focusing on them, he improved a lot. For me, yuurih is one of the most improved players in 2025 for sure.
It's kind of what I was telling him in Chengdu as well, is that the kind of roles he's playing now just kind of seemed a natural evolution of the way his career was heading anyway, in the sense that the way that he would play some of these positions before, he seemed suited for these kind of roles, but he never actually, he was just always the guy who was like, oh, that position's free, I'll play that, don't worry, or like this position's free, I'll play that, don't worry. Like he'd always fill the holes, but he never actually fully got the kind of roles that fit him, and it seems like he's kind of in that spot now and willing to learn about them.
And he also, just to add something, he also had the mentality when we were thinking about the moves. He said, if this is required for the team to work, I'm going to do it. Because he even said, I've done everything in my career. Yeah, like if you guys need me to do this, I'll be the best anchor I can. I'll make sure to be the best anchor I can. If we are bringing someone to play more aggressive positions and taking control of city side together with Cacerato, I can just be quiet and play my anchor positions. And sometimes he even gets to Fallen and says, "Oh, is that position too difficult? I can be playing that if you want." And then he kind of understood that he can be a very powerful player in that, having that mindset. Because like you said, sometimes he was like this passive player playing aggressive positions, and then like he was kind of in between, but still, because we had other people doing the anchoring, he was, of course, and also him being a star player from before, he was kind of always in the aggressive and important star player positions, but he understood everything perfectly, and like I said, he's one of the most improved players from this year.
I think it's interesting that Spirit are kind of one of those teams that do have the more traditional kind of supportive players in anchor roles compared to so many of these teams who do kind of have kind of star anchors in the last few years. I think it's one of those really interesting trends. But one thing I did want to bring up, and Nohte just brought it up now, is their utility. I mean, how much do you as a coach care about stats like this? Does it matter that Spirit kind of have very low flash assists compared to other teams, or is it just kind of a product of their style and maybe they use grenades more or whatever it is? Like, is this significant to you? Because it's one of those stats that divides opinion.
So for me, it matters a lot, but also you need to think they have donk. So donk doesn't need the enemies to be blind for him to be killing them. So that's something you need to take into consideration. No, but joking aside, all jokes aside, I think this is an important stat. If you see, so we are like the fourth team in the entire. These are important for us because we have Fallen as a guy who cares a lot as well about utility.
Half of your bar is just Fallen.
Yeah, probably even more than that. But for me, it's very important. If I had a team, that would be worrying for me, because you'd have to investigate how players are using their flashes. We've had in the past situations where people would be flashing inside the smokes, and I was almost dying. Oh my god, I was having a stroke behind the player watching. Oh my god, what is this player doing? I care a lot about this, and I think this is kind of a collective mindset. Everyone needs to have and understand how important it is for you to throw good flashes for teammates. The amount of Actually, after we started working with magixx, I noticed this. The amount of flashes that people throw, that because they're not perfect, your entry is just getting screwed, is huge. You need people throwing very good flashes for your entry to succeed. So we analyzing and watching some games back, we watch Kinder, the way he's dying sometimes, and you see it's because of flashes, and then he goes to have a very bad game, but he's not being supported well enough, and then you just realize flashes are very important. For me, this is worrying.
I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I remember it being a huge topic with Maui Snake and Cloud9 and kind of the way they would jiggle peek around to try and take map control without using utility. And maybe, I don't know if Spirit do exactly the same thing, but it's almost, but there's other ways to use flashbangs, right? Like, and you can use them for information and like see if you can get an AWP to fire off a shot and stuff. But it feels like the more kind of troubling part of this is that it's so much lower, because it kind of suggests that, especially on CT side as well, that they're not doing kind of those spontaneous flashes for a teammate to peak that a lot of other teams would. And maybe that is just, it's Donk in the position where maybe Yakinda would ask for a flash and Donk just wouldn't, because he's just going to peak. And maybe that's just one of those things. But I do think it's interesting, because I don't remember this being a narrative before. This does feel like a 2025 thing, to me at least.
Yeah, I've seen it talked about a lot more in 2025 as well, especially with the conversation about, like, ZywOo gets all the support, and Donk, people are like, oh, Donk also gets all the support. He gets all the flashes thrown out for him, when, I mean, the statistics don't lie. It's not true.
Yeah,
and when you watch the matches, it's also not the case. Like, he is taking a lot of dry duels or a lot of information plays that Spirit are just playing around. So it is interesting that this has become such a big topic this year. And I'm curious.
I mean, to clarify, it was pretty low in 2024 as well.
Yeah,
I'm just fact checking.
It was,
but it was 0.18.
Yeah,
but it does feel like more of a narrative this year. Sorry.
Yeah. It feels like more of a narrative this year, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes with Zontix coming back as well, because he did play a lot more of those. Zontix and Magic both played more of those traditional support roles. So I am curious to see how different it looks, or whether it is like a hally system kind of issue, because honestly, Spirit could win off firepower with this kind of roster. It is just the kind of lineup that doesn't necessarily need to have the most crazy flash assists. But when you're playing at this kind of level, you're just not going to get away with it. And the consistency that you need to actually win tournaments, you need those kind of flashbangs, the utility, the map control, to effectively, consistently aim for titles. Like, you're not going to get away with taking aim duels against Vitality all the time.
Yeah, and I can be wrong here, but maybe also because of the style of City side that they play, kind of more stale and positional City side. They are maybe skipping some of the flash kills and flash assists. The flash assists they might get, they could been getting a City side as well. When you compare, for example, if you watch City side, if you take Spirit here in comparison with Vitality, feels to me that Vitality is a bit more mobile City, and maybe G2 as well can fit into that. But maybe Spirit relying too much on their firepower and just positional City style. This could be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference so just on CT side for Vitality, it's 0.24 at big events this year, and Spirit's 0.15. So like, it's teams like kind of Aurora, Pain, that are around the Spirit level, and then you kind of look at, I mean, Vitality, Furia, G2, NAVI. It's like that is a huge difference. And I think this is another stat I prepared. Just we can go through it quickly and get to the Shira stuff, because we've already talked about Zontix and magixx quite a lot, but I think this is kind of backing up what I was saying earlier about magixx and Zontix. Like on an average day, you would rather have Zontix and magixx. Like their average level is better, even if maybe they don't always hit the peaks. And I think, I mean, this is interesting to overlay to NER on it as well, because he's not really having those peaks in Spirit last year. I think maybe it's adaptation period, coming in halfway through a season, kind of joining a team that had won kind of 2 trophies like quite quickly before he joined. Like it must have been difficult. But I do think this does illustrate kind of the Zontix magixx point, which is that they're just, their average day is just so much better than kind of a lot of these players in the same roles in the world at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, especially for NER, this explains a lot of their City side problems that they had. Not only City, but also I'm just saying that because normally his T side is very good, yeah, like you said, and then you look at those stats, but I think. Yeah, Zontix and magixx are just more reliable, and I mean they kept NER for a reason. They saw something in him, and I think in the new roles and the new system they will implement with the new roster that they have, they maybe have a good plan for him. But he struggled. Yeah.
It's all fun and good until magixx starts trolling his teammates by walking in front of them when they're opting angles and officials.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think he's going to get with 6-7 against Dom.
I mean, that's not showing us stats, though. That's not showing the numbers.
I know you wanted to talk about the
lead rating 4.0.
Harry. Obviously, this chart is from B-Trans, or Smart Backwards. And
friend of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Friend of the show. We've used a lot of his stats, but this one specifically, you wanted to talk about Shira's offing in Spirit.
Yeah, I think I do want to talk about Shearer because I feel like he's been really subject to a lot of unfair criticism at times. I mean, a lot of it from Ryan K, we had on like literally 2 weeks ago. Couldn't get into it with him, but I'll defend him Shearer now when he's Yanko's not here to defend his take on Shearer. And I think he's there's obviously criticism and we can get to them about especially his playoff play, but as a raw AWPer, I think people focus too much on categorizing him as this kind of player who's too passive. And I think ultimately, like it's not really true all the time anymore. Like I think he's taking a lot more kind of duels when he needs to be. And I think if you watch him in the mid round, he is much more active than maybe he was even 2024 Shearer. I think he is much more active. And I think, you know, we can criticize him about playoffs, but as an AWPer, like if you were designing an AWPer in a lab to complement donk perfectly, like Shearer, like people memed on Spirit for saying that Shearer was a better fit for the team than maybe m0NESY would have been in terms of style. And I just think they're kind of right in a way because Shearer is just such a perfect passive counterbalance to donk, while at the same time being very active mid round when donk dies, and he does have that in him to kind of use the AWP in the right way and not throw it away because it costs $5,000 and it's just annoying when your AWP repeats and dies all the time. I mean, it's fine if they kill everyone like Molodoi does, which I'm sure Sid at some point will have to stop Molodoi repeaking, but until it stops working, that's fine.
I'm already trying, just so you know.
It was rough against NAVI. He had a few repeats there that definitely cost a couple of rounds.
Because it does cost you. And Shearer costs you in a different way where maybe he kind of closes up in the pressure moments, and that's where it's very fair to criticize him. But I think his actual style when he's on a normal group stage studio day, and maybe that's kind of revealing that's how I'm kind of characterizing it. But I do think Shearer has something about him where he is much better than kind of people give him credit for. Like it's hard to have 120 rating in a year. Not many people do that. And I think he's taken for granted a lot by the community who kind of want the donk 1v9 narrative. And I just think Shearer deserves more flowers than he gets, ultimately.
I think what's also interesting about the Shearer m0NESY conversation is that you saw it in Falcons towards the last half of this year. Like m0NESY at EPL talked about how he had this whole conversation with Zonic and about how the team had this conversation about him having more of a voice because the other players were making plays, like Kyosuke was giving more control to make some of those plays, and m0NESY didn't have as much of a voice. And they actively changed that, and his performance went up. Like m0NESY looked much better towards the last couple of events of the year. And Shiro is able to put up good numbers without needing that much of a voice. So if you had m0NESY in this team and donk's trying to make some of those plays, it does change the amount of space that's taken up by players. So I think that is an underrated aspect of this conversation, that Shiro is able to still have this kind of impact without dominating the plays or having to make all these calls early round.
For me, when I think about Shiro, I think about a very, very reliable AWPer. Like Harry said, it's not easy to put the numbers that he puts up constantly, and he's very solid as an AWPer. And having a guy like donk, sometimes you don't have to be super aggressive. We had a conversation about their CT side on the stool the other day, and we were mentioning how much Shiro impacts from A side, particularly playing from ramp on those two. So you see AWPers going for all crazy moves and then trying to pick mid all the time. So for example, if you compare how Shiro opts on those two, compare that to Molodoi, it's gonna be very different. Molodoi is going for a lot of early fights, and Shiro doesn't go for those that often. But it's so hard to go against him when he's playing A side. You can throw all the utility you have. You can have the perfect timing. He's still gonna find a way to get 2 or 3 kills and or at least kill your entry and slow your execute down, and then it's so hard for you to continue the round. He's very solid. And maybe the reason he's too passive is because the style that his team plays actually requires from him to be that kind of an AWPer. But he's very skilled. We rarely see him go for some aggressive moves, but when he does, he's very good at those. And for me, Shiro is the kind of an AWPer that can do anything he wants. It's just that feels like you guys were comparing if Monesi was open for Spirit, for example, feels like more fitting that he plays this way.
Yep.
Because he's saving the team so much in some situations that he's clutching, and then he's very reliable in some of those passive positions, because we were talking about how much space NER is going to take. And now that he's going to this third star position, maybe without Shiro understanding how to play the passive role, it would be so hard for NER to fit and to have all that space. But I think Shiro does fine, and he's very good. He's very good.
Do you think he's too predictable? Because that's criticism I've seen levied against him by the community.
The same thing I said about his team. He might be predictable, but it's very hard to go up against it. It's so hard. And I don't think he's too predictable. I honestly think he's been adding some moves to his game, and I wouldn't categorize him as too passive these days. But I think he does just what's needed for him, having a player like Donk, and of course now having NER in that position. Hopefully, we're going to be seeing a more aggressive NER this side. But I think he's doing fine. I wouldn't criticize him. I like Harry said, he deserves more flowers than people give him.
Mm-hmm. But maybe we do need to bring up the next one. Just to add a bit of balance, like this. This is where
not just flowers, not just flowers to Shiro. Yeah.
Because I'm a big Shiro fan, but I've got to accept this. I've got to kind of mention this, and I think this is kind of, it's true of Spirit all year. I mean, you can see even Donk's on this chart. Like Donk's going from 140 to 130 in playoffs. Like, what a fraud! Am I right? So he's on the chart as well. So like Shiro's playoff level is still, like, he's still very good. He's still like 112, I think, in playoffs for the year against a lot of the best teams, because Spirit of kind of skipping group stage, going semis a lot. Like it's a very different sample to a lot of players, and it's kind of a similar reason why Zershin and all the Mouse guys are so rough in playoffs, is because they just play Vitality like half of their playoff maps. So take it with a pinch of salt, but I do think there's also kind of enough on the eye test to back up that Shiro is one of those players who maybe plays differently on stage. And I think this is where a lot of kind of Yankees criticism of him has been fair, in the kind of a group stage Shiro who does make more of those moves that we know he's added to his game is a very different AWPer to play against than a Shiro on playoffs who kind of misses a shot early in a half and kind of plays differently afterwards. Like that's where I think, I don't know what it is, because he's had quite a few years now. Like he's played a lot of arena maps. This isn't kind of something that's going to magically be fixed next year. I think it's something that will be interesting. And I know kind of for you it's a very different conversation, because Molodoi kind of has been so good in arenas, but maybe with some of those major games we have seen kind of pressure affecting the way he plays a little bit. Like how hard is it kind of within a team when you have a player who is so good and in a practice days, whatever, like there's nothing phases him, and then sometimes you can kind of see the style changing. Like how do you even kind of fix that from within a team? Is it possible? I'm sure it's something you've been thinking about.
Yeah, first of all, this is something you'll definitely feel, because you kind of start relying on that player. I mean, if he's that good on practice of group stage games or whatever, you start relying on that player a lot. So, for example, you have an impactful AWPer who puts up crazy numbers. You're gonna rely on him a lot naturally, and it's okay. And when the player goes missing in an important game, it's very hard for the team to put up and maybe make up for the player when it's an AWPer. And I mean, there are many reasons behind maybe his drop of performance can come from only psychological aspect. Maybe the amount of prep that they're doing is different. Maybe the kind of prep that they're doing for playoff matches is different. Maybe he's overthinking some of the moves that he can be doing, and then he's not going for them because he thinks they are anti-stratting everything that he does in the map. So it changes a lot from team to team, from player to player. You'd have to be inside the team to understand what's the precise factor that's making Shiro drop so much in his numbers. But I think, I mean, he's had many years, he's had many arena games. He needs to change the approach. If of course, he felt that. His team felt that. He can maybe try to go the opposite way of what he's going. I don't know if it's the case that he's overthinking the prep or those things, but maybe he can try a different approach, and he can maybe explore more freedom or the other way around. You needed to be inside the team to understand. I can kind of know what kind of problems we faced with some of the performance drops that we had from groups to playoffs, but it's very hard to define what's happening to him specifically.
Can you share anything about what performance problems you faced? Maybe it's related in some way.
I would say for this major now, we've had preparation problems. I would also say zero problems, but because we played such a strong map for the other team, and then we come third map of a very important game, giving the other team, so like we gave NAVI train, giving them too much of a comfort. Maybe for a situation like that, it's better for them to be playing in one of the most peaked maps that they have, even though it's a good map for us as well. But in the back of your head, you're playing at your own field. Yeah, like it's a map, one of the maps to pick the most. Of course, it's gonna be more comfortable for you. But I would say for us, it's kind of bringing more things for the players to do individually, to bring more surprise factors, I would say. This is something we could have done better.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things, right? When there's so few AWPers that are able to be impactful, I think it must be so hard for teams when they're going into these matches and kind of their AWPer is missing, and you kind of have the problem that everyone else has in group stages all the time, which is that you kind of having an AWPer that you're spending a lot of money on who doesn't always kind of get the output that you expect from like a 2018 AWPer or something. Like what have you kind of worked on with Modelo specifically? Do you think it is kind of too soon to say anything? Because I think he's got a lot of criticism from some people, maybe unfairly, about kind of what he's been like in kind of a Chengdu arena versus a major arena. Do you think that's actually a real thing, or do you think it's kind of just two matches that people are playing out with the Pain game and the Navi game? Like, do you think it's been unfair on Molodoi a little bit?
I think it's unfair because those games, they are 6 months apart. The Pain game, maybe 5 months apart. Pain game and the Navi game. And it's not an arena problem. This might be the case of us not preparing him well enough with maybe some surprising moves, like I said, or trying to play the same game that we were playing group stages. But I think it's unfair. He's still developing. It's his rookie year. Even let's say it's the case that he's choking during a major playoff game. I mean, it's okay. It's fine. I would say it's kind of expected for a rookie guy. Of course, if you consider donk, of course we're gonna think everyone should be winning a major in his rookie year. But it's his second major. He's just 20. He's not even a full year playing in this level. So I would say it's kind of expected that his perform drops a bit. For me as a coach, of course, I'm going to be exploring more with him and trying to, not only for the next major, but for the next arena match, to have him more prepared and to fix all those things that I'm telling you guys. Even though it's a major, those problems might happen in just any other arena game. So for me, the major can add kind of a factor, adds a weight into the game, because when you think, oh, I'm sitting here, I'm playing a major playoff game, oof, this is different. But all of those problems, in my opinion, if we fix them for any other arena, when it comes to the major, he's just going to be more comfortable and we can rely on him a lot more. But honestly, for his rookie year, I wouldn't say, oh my God, Molodoi is a choker because he's not performing on major playoffs. Of course, it's something for us to be alert, but I don't say it's a big problem.
Do you think it would have been different if you hadn't been considered such favorites for the major by the time it rolled around?
Yeah, I would say so, yes. It's very difficult playing as the number one team in the world. I even said this to Flames. I saw Flames after they won now in Budapest, and I told him, man, it's so hard coming to a playoff being the number one team in the world, and everyone is expecting you to win. You naturally add extra weight to yourself. It's not the same thing. And I tell everyone, playing as underdogs is so good. So good. And even in some of those arena games that we had, we kind of found a way of taking the pressure away from us and putting that pressure on the other team. For example, last Hong Kong finals against Falcons, we as a team found a way of making it look like they were the favorites and they had all reasons to be pressured. And we, as a team, believed in that. And we came as a team to the final just, okay, guys, it's fine. They are the ones with the big responsibility here and all that. And we came from winning 3 tournaments before that. And for the major, we couldn't do the same. We, not consciously, but we knew what kind of pressure we had.
It's playing in your mind a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's one of the things I've talked about a bit, but when you give Blade like 4 days to prepare for a match, like I'd be terrified of that match anyway. I think it's one of the things, if there was like a CS league and there was weekly matches and you gave Blade a week, like every game, I think we'd see different teams be the kind of best teams of the year if you kind of had a week to prep for every single match. Like it's so hard with majors because you often have like 3 hours between best of ones or something versus kind of 4 or 5 days for a playoff match. And I think it's one of those things where a team like Spirit, to kind of try and bring it back a little bit, might benefit from that kind of process, where the way the circuit works is that often Spirit are playing a team, day after day, and they don't have to be quite as subject to what you're talking about with kind of what Blade is able to do against a team like FURIA. And you're kind of always overthinking kind of, we've got to remodel our game, but at the same time not kind of undo what makes you good in the first place. Like it's just such a hard trap for the number 1 team never to fall into. And I think for Spirit, maybe going into next year is kind of the challenges, at least at the start, should be able to help them in theory.
Yeah.
And also,
they're going to be unpredictable in the beginning. Sorry. They're going to be very unpredictable in the beginning. And not only what you said, but also being this unpredictable is going to help them a lot.
I was just going to say it wouldn't be a Spirit episode without us glazing donk a little bit. And I think Harry's made this chart that does the glazing all on its own, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to talk about anything to do with donk until January the 10th, but you kind of have to. And this is not a chart, because some people might be like, oh, you made a chart where donk was the best at everything. But no, this is just my like normal template for players. And for 2025, I mean, again, obviously there's much more that goes into kind of the top 20 players and stuff, but you just still have to, this is just ridiculous. Like, it's literally everything. Even like kill differential, which you're like, okay, well, he dies a lot more than like even most star players, like even most kind of star aggressive players that don't kill anywhere near the same amount. And he's still just like he's like first or second in every single stat on here. And I think, it's taken for granted a little bit if we do an hour long episode on Spirit, and we just don't really need to mention donk much because everyone knows this, but it's still worth just like, this is just insane. And I don't know how long he can keep it up for, but I mean, no sign of it slowing down yet.
It's just insane. He needs to share the secret as soon as possible. This is just ridiculous. Honestly, this is ridiculous. Oh my god!
Like in 1 out of 4 rounds, normally he's killing 2 people.
And the insane thing is normally these charts, like it normally does like the top 5% as the outer like edge, and for donk I always have to make it the max.
Yeah,
and it still looks like this. It's just like,
it's
whatever.
What can we say? And he's had an even better year than 2024, which was amazing in terms of numbers. He's put up even crazier numbers. I think he's just unstoppable. And oh my god, yeah, we just need to praise him and to witness greatness, because what can we say? It's amazing.
Obviously, Harry can't really say anything on it, but so who do you have as your top player of the year between ZywOo and donk?
For me, ZywOo, because I value what his team won a lot, and also the MVPs that he had, and how much of an impact he had on those wins that Vitality had. If you look purely at numbers, I don't even know how the numbers look exactly between them two, but as a complete player and from the outside, I feel like ZywOo is developing a lot into this leader inside the team together with Apex. I feel like he's growing more and more as a player. Not only his ability to shoot or to maybe try maybe winning and some crazy rounds, but I think if you look at him as a whole, he's developing more and more. And I think this year part of Vitality's success was his development into this kind of a leader and this kind of an impactful professional, not only as a player but also as the guy outside of the team. He seems very important to the team vibes and also those things that the numbers won't show. I feel like ZywOo is developing more and more.
Obviously, I can't ask Harry the same question. You guys will find out his opinion on January 10th.
Not my opinion, my application of our criteria.
Of course.
Yeah,
Make sure to
that's
add
correct.
him on HLTV forums. But speaking of HLTV
I won't see
forums,
it anymore.
Yeah, nice try, Harry. You know everything is based on your opinion now. Nice try.
Just whatever I wake up feeling like.
I think my favorite part is how long this has been going, and that Harry's really been a part of it for like 2 or 3 years now, but it's always now at Harry specifically. Like Striker's ignored for some reason more than half the time. And it's just Harry's fault.
Yeah.
Harry is the face everyone
fault.
wants to look at and think like, oh, this guy again, putting his favorite players into the top positions and
Oh, it's just
creating
everyone now.
stats
But,
just
yeah,
so modesty can be up
yeah.
there.
Because Peter never got any criticism ever as well, of course. Everyone forgets that. You just need to wait 10 years and everyone will forget everything anyway. But yeah, it's always funny, and I think it's a top player of the year's list. It's always going to be, to an extent, subjective about what you value more, right? And I mean, we'll get into this. We'll get into this later. I shouldn't carry on. We got
pretty
spirits
soon. Pretty soon.
But
yeah,
talking
go
about
on, mate.
HLTV forums, obviously, we like to end our show with a couple of threads, as we told Sid in advance. And the first one's going to be coaching related. And it says, Overdrive Delulu. And it says, put Hally as his coach of the year. And it's by Shall Be United with the Russian flag. It says, imagine having the best player in the history of the game and winning only 3 legit events. And that's despite the fact that he had very good opportunities to strengthen the roster with better players, such as Kioske, both after Shanghai and during the summer break, yet he blew it on each occasion. Also never picks Overpass, which is still the map that Spirit had the best win rate on since 2024. Coach of the year, my ass. The first season of 2026 should be his very last chance. If Spirit fail at 2, which is what I personally expect, this dude should be out, period. Before we touch on the main thread, I just wanted to say there's a reply that says the best coach of the year was Zonic. In the reply, I will say why. And then he replies to his own comment saying why.
I don't look at forums enough to get the memes anymore.
That's all.
I'm behind
Forums
now.
are incredible.
I
mean,
what do you make of Hally's coaching this year?
I wouldn't put him as coach of the year, but he doesn't deserve that much criticism like this guy did. I think, of course, he has the player of the era right now. Donk is the guy who'll be remembered maybe as the GOAT or whatever. But I mean, he's up against very good team in Vitality, and of course they didn't lose only to Vitality. They had some losses against other teams. But I mean, Hally's, for me, he's a great coach. He's a great coach, and he's been doing a very good job with Spirit. We can't forget they won Cologne, which is not easy to do. And just last year, they won the major. And they're trying to figure out the pieces inside the team. And of course, they're not going to win everything every time. But I think he's a great coach. And like I said, even though I, from the outside, thought that his participation was 50-50 with Chopper, I think now we're going to be seeing more of his input in Spirit's game. I wouldn't attribute if they have early success in the year only to him, but I think he'll be a big part of it, of any success they have in this next 2 seasons.
Harry, any thoughts on?
I think people are just doing the classic thing. I think, like in England, we call it kind of tall poppy, because it's kind of the theory that basically, I'm going to get through. It's like a thing where English newspapers are very good at this. It's you get someone who's kind of unknown like Hally, who doesn't give many interviews or whatever that people don't know about, and you kind of build them up as much as you can, and you kind of even overhype them sometimes. And I think it's kind of happened to Ash a little bit, is you kind of overhype them, you kind of build someone up from nothing, and then they're really, really high, and then you only do that so that you can then kind of cut them down and then kind of have that rise and fall story that we all like in fiction and stuff, right? And I think Hally's kind of getting that a little bit, where he gets so much praise maybe last year, and the same things were true then. And I mean, a lot of people obviously gave credit to Donk, and I think he's just kind of on the downslope of that, and kind of how the community thinks about something. Like every time someone gets praised a little bit too much, they have to be chopped down at some point. And like it is his system, and I think there's fair criticism of that system. But when you have a player like Donk, I don't know who would try a different system, really. I think you kind of have to build a team in a certain way that is kind of different to a regular team, and that always makes it difficult. And also it's coaches. We don't fucking know. We know if they're good at interviews. Like it's like Sid speaks really well here. Do I know if he's a good coach? I mean, I think he is.
You'll never know.
He sounds like a really good coach. I've got no fucking clue what he's like in a team. Like none of us do. Like we see a vlog.
Yeah.
Like I know he's bad at football from the vlog. That's all I know about Hally, really. Like
It's kind of reasonable.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, we have another thread that says "Scary Looking Spirit" by Zebek with an Indian flag, who loves Molodoy. Good, quite.
That's good. Some credit.
It says Zontix the Beast is back. My boy was the one who unlocked Donk Ultra Instinct forms well. Everyone in the team and HLTV knew Chopper was the one holding back the team. Zweih with G, so as in way. Just got unlucky, but anyway, given his touch and go form, he was never the best for replacing Zontix, and magixx has much to give. This person needs to learn how to use punctuation. Overall, this team looks scary on paper if they get through start period of settling down with new IGL. Plus, I love Spirit as they don't fear to make decisions, even though they just got new players. Pretty serious attitude. Let the roster mania keep rolling. This is fun. And we have a reply by $! exclamation mark up arrow, who loves Donk, with a British Virgin Islands flag that says, they are like a big happy family. magixx, mother. Hally, father. Zontix, reserve son. Donk, outgoing son. NER, uncle that is chill. And then they said, I forgot Shiro.
I called him an unk. He's like 23.
He said, I forgot Shiro. And then someone said, Shiro is what? And he said, daughter. So we have the whole Spirit family together. What do you think of the Spirit family tree, guys?
I mean, the family can be winning some tournaments this year. Let's see how they find the places where everyone's gonna sit at the table, and then if they can have a happy dinner, they can be a family that maybe win more than 3 tournaments, and then the guy will say Hally should stay. So yeah, they can be a happy family.
Yeah, it's the classic. It's, how do you vote for Coach of the Year? Oh, I don't know, just sort by trophies like that. That'll do. Yeah. That'll do. And next year could be Hally's year. Just got to activate Donk a little bit more, I reckon. That's what he's missing.
I thought this one was an interesting comparison. It's by is_just_better with the Hong Kong flag, who loves Jacob. And it says, Spirit will be like 2021 NAVI. Just like Boomich with Blade, magixx will closely try to follow Hally's game plan, and that will be enough with their firepower to win a lot of events. Also, I believe that Donk has very good vibes with magixx and Miroslav Zontix. This team will pop like 2021 NAVI. Trust.
Reasonable.
You think so?
Reasonable.
Good comparison?
Too reasonable.
I think
Is there not an extra paragraph or something?
No.
I don't know if it's a good comparison, but the team going well together part can be true. I mean, like I said before, in the beginning, I believe they're gonna be following more of Hally's plan, but I also want to see how magixx is gonna develop into his own IGL style and having his own freedom and playing the way he wants. And I don't think it's gonna happen in the beginning, but eventually you're gonna get to that, because this is just how it goes with new IGLs.
I'm also really interested. I mean, it didn't really come up in the main show that much, but kind of Zontix and NER being very similar T roles in terms of how often they would be the one trading and entering. And I think kind of Spirit now, they still need a second person to kind of be bait for donk on site executes. And I'd be interested to see how Zontix does on T side if he is that person that has to do that, because that's kind of, I think that is important that they're not going to make donk go back to kind of his more 2023, 2024 bomb site entry role and kind of keep him more as kind of the second in trade fragger. I think it just makes more sense. So there are kind of complexities to it. It's not as simple as kind of bringing magixx and Zontix back and having the same kind of supportive structure. That having to near there instead of chopper does make a huge difference to what magixx and Zontix are going to be asked to do.
I also think they're gonna have to figure out some of the roles in terms of magixx. As an IGL, he needs to play some roles that he didn't play before T side. So he's gonna be part of the pack more than he was before. And then he needs to kind of just with NER to see if NER is gonna be the guy with a lot of freedom T side, or maybe being the second lurk with magixx being part of the pack. But maybe sometimes the NER and donk and Shiro can be the pack, and it all depends on maps, of course. But it's gonna be interesting to see the dynamics as well, because we talked a lot about CT side, but also they have to figure out some of their T side stuff.
Do T side roles matter anymore? I mean, you've got Queserato playing like, so
he can do everything.
He's playing like banana. He's playing lower B. It's like on my position sheet. It's like next year, I think Queserato is going to be an opener. Like if I just apply the rules right now, and it's like you're literally going to make me change the criteria because I'm just not having this. Like he's not an opener.
Yeah,
he's playing those roles.
That's what I said. Every map is different. I mean, Queserato can. Any map we tell him we need him doing this, and he says okay, I'll be doing that, and he succeeds in every role. He's very smart and he's very good with nades. He's very patient, and he has a very good ability to open sites at the same time. So that's why he does Banana Inferno. That's why Mirage he lurks a lot more. And then Train, he also enters, and it's a very good mix. And I think it's fine to have that mix. But the same way we had to figure that out, they will also have to figure their team out. I mean, I hope they fail at that. I'm just kidding. But, I hope they I hope they can find the right places for the pieces. But yeah, sometimes that's how it goes.
We have an interesting prediction. This one says magixx-IGL of the next year by washed up with an Uzbekistan flag who loves donk. And it says, remember how he saved donk from Aura Det in that Astana interview? That's how great he is. The vibes the brings to the team, the charisma, and he finished school with a gold medal. He is like Boomich, but not stupid. He will easily become GOAT Ruski IGL. Then someone, MJ4K with the Chinese flag, replies, he's like Apex and Kerrigan, but good.
I mean, we need a team of Aura farmers, and then we're set.
What
can I say?
magixx-IGL of the next year?
The anti-mouse.
Depends on how much Aura he can farm, and then...
You can tell.
Okay, just sort by
Sid's
trophies.
been using the forums, you can tell. He knows how to reply.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 12-year-old son, so I have to be on. So I just learned about this 6-7 thing, and I told the magixx is into that, so maybe he understands the concept of Aura farming. So let's see. I hope he's not edge of the year, but maybe top 3 is a good something good for him. He's a nice guy. I want him to succeed, but not more than Fallen.
It'd be IGL of the year, but for FURIA.
Yeah, for FURIA maybe, yeah.
There are other threads, but I think a couple of them rehash stuff we've already talked about. A couple were just trying too hard, I think. So I think thread-wise, we'll leave it there. But
yeah. You saved the best for the last. So I liked it. Yeah.
You got to get some of those predictions, and the HLC forum threads always need some bait in them.
They're amazing. The threads are amazing.
But yeah, as we wrap up the show, Sid, we always give the guests the last chance to give any parting words, anything you want to leave us with as we go into the new year.
No, just wanna thank you guys for all of your work this entire year, all of the interviews, all of the articles, all of the everything that HLTV always puts out, and that's elite content in every aspect of it. So just want to say thank you guys for the work you do. Very important for us professionals in the scene as well, not only for people who watch and the regular guy who opens the website and surfs through it, but also for us in terms of stats. What Harry does is just amazing for us to understand a bit more of how things are working, and also to be part of some of the interviews and reading other people's interviews. I mean, the whole platform is so complete for us as professionals as well. Just want to take the space to praise you guys for the work you guys do. And yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you guys a lot more next year.